I can remember that it was a focus of attention for the students. People were pressing faces against the windows. Those that could be outside were outside, especially as it came down the highway and pulled onto the property and grounds, and everybody was definitely interested in what was going on because it was probably one of the bigger events that we had had in quite some time.
I forget just how many bridges was in the county at one time, but Fairfield County had its fair share, and I know several have broken through, some have been burned down, and so I think we're fortunate that we have a site here, and it ends up, actually, it's over water the way it turned out here with the pond structure.
I think I took my class at the time and was out in front of the school and saw the bridge come across the drive. There was kind of a circular drive, went around and intersected on two ends of the circle on the 22. And it came in on the east end and went past the school. And I remember the viewpoint of here we were, there's the school behind us and a covered bridge moving between us. And at one point you could see the American flag sticking up above the school, and that was one of those moments.
The RF GBaker Weingartner Bridge was built in 1871 by Francis Arnold. It's on the dam site 6A of the Rush Creek Lake, and it's a part of the Rush Creek Conservancy District. This would flood the area where the bridge was currently, and they contacted the VOAG teachers, Ray Steeman, about putting it up at the high school. So they allotted $20,000 to contract to move the bridge. We did check with them, and $18,957 of that was used.
Rushville Lake is 2 miles east of Rushville, north of Route 22. It's approximately 300 acres of water, which includes boat ramps. The bridge came off of Thornville Road and would have been inundated under a considerable amount of water. I think I heard about 12 feet it would have been submerged.
Officials had a dedication on July 27th, 1981, and Governor Jim Rhodes was in attendance. Stewart Vault Works from Bremen furnished a tent for keep everybody out of the direct sunlight and so forth. The groundbreaking with the Board of Directors shared a 3-handled shovel with Governor Rhodes looking on. R.M. Foltz was a local ag teacher, was on the board at that time, also from the Robert Shaw, and then Robert Peters from the Department of Natural Resources was there, and Harry Bloom. Jim Young was also on the Board of Directors, but he was not present.
A view looking south on Thornville Road when the bridge was still in use. The bridge was closed approximately early in 1981.
They began preparation to move the bridge. They brought in cribbing and so forth, placed underneath and in a creek bed and jacked it up.
We go to the site where the bridge will be located, looking across the pond. Fairfield Union VOAG class members at this point were making plans for site preparation.
Several different class days along the way were used by VOAG members, cleaning out brush and all types of things, and eventually we had to drain the pond.
Here's more site clearing by the VOAG students. The site was quite a wilderness area that had to be cleared.
Lightacre Farms furnished some of the equipment early on for digging and grading and so forth around the area, and Charles and Edwin Berry also donated some equipment that came in handy as we moved things along. The footers work was done with BOAG students, and we'd applied for a grant through Building Our Ohio Communities for some funds to help with this, and I forget exactly the amount, but maybe $1,200 or $1,500, something like that. And the Conservancy engineers, of course, had to design the plans and the size it would take to hold the bridge up and one thing and another. And we checked, and the footers are a foot thick, 7 feet wide, 31 feet long. Took about 8 yards of concrete for each one.
Here, cribbage piers for removing the bridge are being put in place by employees of the BRH movers in Columbus who won the contract for moving the bridge.
They just put the cribbing in place and worked their way along there, and they worked it out so that there was some roller pipes that the bridge eventually would be moved on, and they moved one ahead of the other. They moved it along. Work done there was approximately in the time frame of August 24th, 1981.
Bridge is jacked up, ready to be moved. Notice when you look inside, there's bracing in an X form that will keep the walls stabilized. And the bridge is starting to move at this point, and it has cleared the north end, and continues to move very slowly off of the site on the rollers and the cribbage.
The workers had to stand on little planks and so forth to kind of manipulate things around as the bridge moved from one cribbing to the other with the rails that they had it on.
The bridge is off the old site now, starting down the road. Somebody told me that the vehicle used to pull that was an old Rio from World War II, which had originally been used as a tank retriever.
North in abutment of the bridge, you can see the stones that the bridge set on. These stones were, many of them, taken down and then moved to the high school and used in the foundation for the location at the high school.
Here's some local folks looking over where the bridge site used to be, and it's thought that the man in the straw hat was Chet Lehman, a local gentleman, a farmer that lived on 22, and had also been a teacher, a music teacher for quite some time in the local school system.
Moved the bridge south in on Thornville Road, and they had to encounter a one-lane bridge, which was the edge of the sides had to be removed so they could get across, and unfortunately had a flat tire that first day and caused a little bit of delay, and they had estimated that the bridge did weigh about 65,000 pounds.
The covered bridge emerges from the one-lane bridge on the county road and continues south on Thornville Road, and off to the right behind you can see the Curtis Maurer farm. Electric lines had to be held up by workers who actually walked the lines from the front end to the rear of the bridge.
And got on to Route 22. That got to be quite a maneuver with a big truck and just very slow and tedious work. And so that took a little bit of time, plus there was electric lines and telephone lines and so forth that had to be held up. And luckily, I think that there was no lines ever had to be taken down on the whole move. So no one's electric got darn turned off or anything.
Interesting note that as the Baker Bridge moved west on Route 22 east of Rushville, it passes the Wing Baker Farm, which can be seen in the background.
As they moved on around the bypass at Rushville then, just a slow process. I think it's 4 miles an hour or something such as that.
About a fast walking pace.
And so it just, traffic got to slow down a little bit, let the bridge through.
When you cross the bridge on the new, what the locals call the new bridge on Route 22, there was an elevator at the time down below along Rush Creek, and Kevin Elder climbed one of the legs of the elevator to take pictures.
So some of the times if you look, you can see Kevin standing up on the very top of the leg, and he got a great shot of the bridge crossing the bridge. And Kevin worked for the Soil Conservation Service and Department of Natural Resources and so forth. And this picture he submitted to a national conservation magazine, and it was on the cover of their magazine.
It went ahead and passed the Rushville intersection, and the workers on top continued quite often to have to lift wires. When they got to the Joe Kaler farm, just approaching the school, they had to swing to the wrong side of the road because the wires were high enough on that side, but not on the other side.
If you look east from the high school driveway, could see the bridge coming, moving west, and so it just slowed traffic down and had a sheriff's department doing their thing to help us out and so forth.
The bridge turned into the drive past the high school and the junior high, and it's going to pass right in front of the school, across the school ground, and at one point, if you were out on the 22 side, you could see Old Glory showing above the peak of the roof on the bridge. That was quite a sight for a short period of time.
I think we figured out that this might have been the second day of school or first day of school.
It was either the first or second day. It was very near the start of school that year.
Yeah. Roy Cunningham was the junior high principal at the time, and I think he must have let all the kids out to see that bridge coming across there. I don't know if the high school kids were so lucky.
After the bridge passed the school, then it had to go around a little hillside on the land lab back behind the baseball diamond. That was known to be, at a point there, kind of a treacherous situation, as the bridge would be on a, sidling, you might say. The bracing inside held, and there was no damage or shifting to the structure.
Bridge then, luckily, went right through the cropland. We had contour strips there, so they were able to move right through, didn't knock down any corner or anything. View from the school then looked a little different to everybody as the bridge was moving along, and if you hadn't had a chance to notice it up to that time.
Kind of a picture of interest where you can see in the background the scale house that was used by the young farmers when they had the tractor pull, and that's gone, but that's of interest because at one time that was quite an event at Fairfield Union School.
The bridge where it comes in from the west side, you can see there's an oil well there. At one time they were drilling a well trying to get some free gas, I guess, but that happened to be in the background. And this moves on into the site cleared by the students and so forth coming in from the west.
The bridge, as it had to be pulled over the prepared footers. There was cribbage prepared so to support it and have something to roll on as it went across.
It's kind of interesting to watch a big old truck just kind of move along so slow and get everything into position over the footers and so forth. Once they did get it general position, it had to be jacked up and so forth, and then they would loose the beams from underneath the ones they moved it on.
The I-beams that carried the bridge were 82 feet long. They were 16 by 16, consisting of 1.5 inch thick steel, and each one weighed 175 pounds per foot, making a weight of 14,350 pounds each. There were dual wheel dollies which were clamped to the beams by large C-clamps.
The bridge course being held up, and they started moving in actually the stone from the original bridge site, so they could start putting in the foundations. And get a little picture of Ed Poole and Tom West here, industrial art teacher. They were very involved in this too, and they come out to inspect it all, I guess.
It met our approval.
It met your approval.
Yeah. Stones from the original site were hauled and prepared to support in the new location.
We kind of wondered how they would maybe handle all those stones and so forth, but we did happen to get some pretty good pictures there. They used a backhoe and stone tongs. Looked like the old bigger version of ice tongs the old Iceman used to use.
The FFA members, they were very interested in what was going on after all their labors and effort in preparing the site.
The young farmers helped out a lot too. Charlie Beery, and we mentioned Edwin, his brother, donated time and operating and so forth to get things cleaned up around and so forth.
There had to be some timbers replaced and repair made, I think, yes, it had been the north end of the bridge, and apparently there had been it was probably moisture damage and perhaps even termites over the years, so there's some pretty heavy timbers placed in there. Here's Jim Ketcham pushing dirt. The whole operation was so supported by people loaning equipment and actually donating certain materials. But here's dozer loaned by Neil Beard and Mark Ricketts that Jim's doing some finish work with.
Part of the plans that the engineers designed was they wanted stone next to the footer on each end, like a French drain, and it'd keep the water moving away from the wood then that way. And Clayton Bussey owned the Somerset Cut Stone, and he donated the gravel, a couple loads of gravel for that, and a lot of riprap, bigger stone where the water flowed down off the school grounds into the pond. He donated that too, and students got the thrill of having to pick them up and load them on a truck.
They were also supported by the Fairfield County Department of Transportation.
FFA got involved too. They had, of course, owned a tractor and a blade and some different things and disc, and so we had to do site preparation ahead of seeding and get some landscape work back done. So that all takes a little time. Yeah, Dan Shell was, he's from Liberty Union, but he's a student at Ohio State time and doing his practice teaching, I guess, in the fall experience or something. So he just happened to luck out, and we give him the hand seeder and let him do the seeding.
And after the bridge was in place and the pond had been lowered, we have a view looking looking toward the north across the lowered pond, and then the same view later after the pond was filled somewhat.
The bridge, this needed some maintenance and painting and so forth, and I think Tom West got the first painting job to do with some volunteers from his shop class, and he about got stuck in the pond standing out there on the ladder, but the job got done.
Yes, there's I asked for volunteers from some of the shop classes, and a few boys did volunteer, and they were this was not done during the school year. It was done during the summer.
Young farmers volunteered to paint the roof, and we didn't put the students up on that job, so that was kind of a neat job too. And somewhere along the line we had to fix the dam and the spillway back up so the pond would fill back up. All the while, the Conservancy, they were still working, building the dam, and they cleared out all the trees and everything where the bridge had come from, and that was progressing.
It's an aerial view of the bridge. After it's in place and newly painted, in this particular view, the bridge is to the extreme left of the picture. People rallied to fulfill a need, like NPW. I think I gave him a phone call. I'm not sure as I remember, because the fellow that was head of that at the time had been a former shop student of mine, and he just got right on that and sent his equipment down and or did a fine job quickly.
Along the way too, they felt that maybe the span was pretty long, and they wanted to maybe get a little extra support underneath. Lauren Young had his class on concrete and masonry work and so forth, built some extra piers under each side, and this was kind of initiated by Doyd Robb, who himself has a covered bridge and was a teacher at Fairfield Union and has since deceased, but he was very interested in this, and we thank him for all his interest as we got this job done.
I would like to also make a statement of appreciation about Doyd Robb and his efforts. He was a longtime member of the group that advised the use of the Land Lab, called the Land Lab Council. Doyd was also a World War II veteran of quite renown. He had flown a B-24 and got shot down in Yugoslavia. Maybe some folks will remember that story. That it's due to people like him that these kind of worthwhile projects are accomplished.
One time in my ag classes, I had a group of kids that seemed like every time I turned around they were gone, or they were on their break or something. They wouldn't be back in time, and I'd spend all my time running around. And here I found out that they were over with Tom in Industrial Arts, and they decided to build a scale model of the covered bridge, and then later on they presented it to me at an FFA banquet. So that was quite a surprise, and but it was quite interesting trying to keep track of those guys.
Let me say that really was a special moment for I think everybody involved, but especially those young fellows that had come up with that idea, and they had a lot of fun. Would I be correct in saying sneaking over to Industrial Arts and working on that bridge? And
yeah.
It was a nice thing.
There's always maintenance needed on these bridges and continues. There is a Land Lab Council ongoing. Back in the early part, Charlene Shoemaker was the clerk treasurer and secretary, I guess. And a lot of the information we pulled out, we got from some of her notes that she'd kept on and so forth. So we're really glad that she kept the detail that she did. And so I think that they're in the process of getting some more work done on the covered bridge.
Definitely there should be a thank you to Jim and to Tom, not only for the bridge, but for all the work that's been put into the Land Lab through the years that they've been involved with. It's that kind of dedication that allows something like this to not only initially get started, but be sustained through the years.
I had a slide camera, and I did pretty much get pictures from beginning to end. Might not got everything, but the bridge is probably the single biggest endeavor that, Board of Education took on. They had to, the county owned it, and they had to give up ownership to the Fairfield Union Board of Education, and then all these other agencies, supervised and so forth. So it's been quite an endeavor. People just need to realize that these things it's worth it. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but when you take it on, you have to realize that there is some expense involved, and that our Rush Creek Conservancy District and Soil Conservation, FFA, Young Farmers, school, mowing and all those things that take place. So that kind of brings us up to where we're at right now, I guess.
Over the years, it's been painted, I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times. I was usually involved in that. I remember just one little funny incident. I took on the task of, with the help of some of my industrial arts students as volunteers, one summer we decided to paint it. And we set ladders in the palm. On the south side here, there's about 3 feet of muck down there, so we had fun trying to pull our ladders out of the muck, but one young man unfortunately fell off the ladder, and even today when I see him around the community, we laugh about that. He was a freshman at the time. That's my recollections of the bridge and how it come to be here.